So today we're going to talk about the polyamory relationships that people keep hearing that their twin flame is in or a part of. And I got a question from KC, and her question is what if your twin flame chooses to go down the polyamory path, but you choose not to? And so she asked if I had some videos out there, so huge shout out to her because this video is in response to her question. So if you have specific questions about your twin flame experience, please let me know in the comments below. And I'm going to start a series on just kind of showing up for real talk and discussing these topics. In case we haven't met, my name is Dr. Harmony, and I will help you live fearless, live loved, and live free. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when all my videos and content come live. So before we dive straight into that question as to what if your twin flame chooses the polyamory path, kind of what should you do basically, let's talk a little bit about polyamory, why it exists, the spiritual side of it, and how it relates to the collective impact that we're making on the world right now. So polyamory, as we've known it, is to be a non-exclusive, intimate relationship with multiple people or partners that come together, and sometimes they're all connected and maybe in their own community, and sometimes they could be in different locations or communities, but are coming together in more of a triangle. But a lot of times they actually literally come in like a community or group. Now think about the collective shift that we have going on right now. We have a collective movement where we're all moving to oneness, wholeness, completeness, divine love that is moving beyond this idea of this sense of your mind, this sense of jealousy, this sense of dysfunctional relationships, really. So as twin flames, we are redefining relationships and we're breaking down all programs and all patterns. As we've known in the history, monogamy is an exclusive relationship with a partner that you're intimate with, and you get together and you spend your life in happily ever after, supposedly. But in the past, that has led us down a pathway to a lot of jealousy, codependency, addictive personality, a sense of physical desire and lust, and we have gotten away from the original aspect of the connection of divine love and the intimacy and the unconditional love that true love is supposed to embody within us, which is what we're returning to. So as we go through this process of ascending and going to higher versions of us, I have seen a lot of people go down the polyamory path for multiple reasons. So I'm going to share with you some of those reasons why they've went down that path, and then also my own experience with some of my relations in those types of scenarios. So the first thing I feel guided to say is, when it comes to polyamory, from a personal standpoint, I think it's a very personal decision, but I also think there's a lot of judgment out there about it. And I also think that it's something that that's a part of this process, or it's coming forth in order to open us up to let go of this sense of desire from this codependent state that a lot of people have been in. What I've noticed from the divine masculine that I've worked with, or clients that have had their divine masculine go down this particular path, is a lot of divine masculine have been controlled by and emasculated by a lot of, controlling women. And so they've been getting out of these long-standing relationships, and in those long-standing relationships where they have not had a sense of sovereignty or freedom or a sense of being able to be who they are, who they want to be, they are choosing okay, so I don't want to necessarily be involved with anyone or be committed to just one person, because they haven't fully found their identity of who they are, and they need to step into their identity, learn who they are, learn to show up in a place that they know how to love themselves. And with that being said, it's leaving them in this wide open field to make these claims that I'm not going to be in a relationship. And I've been in some of those and I actually did a video series with one particular divine masculine that I will put a link to below and above for you to connect to his story, because he also, had been going down that path, and actually was also somebody I was connected to that had been in a long-term relationship, married, lots of control, still trying to, separate from those things, and had no clue who he was. But that was part of the thing, as I was coming forth in this sense of, I'm ready for my person and that one person, and he wasn't, because he had been tied down, locked down by this person, and very restricting. So basically, in that case, for me personally, I went down a lot of pathways to eliminate a lot of expectations, from a standpoint that I also felt this sense of desire to have my one person that felt strong, stable, secure, and connected. But I also felt like there was this expanded version going on inside of me, because I was actually being stripped of all expectations, down to age, down to my sexuality and gender, and all kinds of things that put me in positions to be stripped of all these things that I perceived to be what I did or didn't want in someone or in my relationship. And when it comes to love, you can't put it in a box. And so therefore, it's about opening yourself up and allowing yourself to basically experience a sense of freedom, because we're all moving into this sense of freedom, and we're all wanting and desiring this place of sovereignty, and it's an inner soul knowing that you're striving for. However, I resisted that when it came to just being with one person. And so I kept having crossed my path all these people that were in polyamorous relationships. And I saw it as a science experiment, because I saw it as the ability to kind of track the collective, seeing the collective trends, seeing the energy, but also what happens in the collective happens within us, and we go through that. So I was really shown that it was like in this bandwidth, and in the bandwidth of this freedom movement, of this opening and this expansion, that people are experiencing this, even if it's more for a short term, to give them the sense of feeling free, that they don't want to or not ready to be in a relationship. So naturally, you as a person have to only choose that for yourself. And obviously, it's not for everyone. And it may not even be everyone's path or lesson that they have to learn that. In my case, it was. And so I also had to come into some places of being open and allowing to, because I knew that if I wasn't, then I was restricting myself. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the things that are happening in the shift from our old paradigm to our new paradigm has a bandwidth in it. And in that bandwidth says that, we all are going to carry a piece and a part of it. And so polyamory has really become this piece of a bandwidth that says we're going to be part of the redefining what relationships look like and how they work. And so it's a real thing, and it's something that we signed up for. It's in the soul. But I think that what I'm also saying is that it can look very enticing up front, in a sense that it gives you a sense of freedom and maybe fulfills a lot of, desires for you personally, not to feel locked in or feel trapped in. But on the flip side, it also opens up a person to connect to so many people that it can be very toxic, or actually maybe not so much toxic, it could be, but it actually opens you up to clear and heal a lot of wounds, because now you have wounds that are being triggered through these dynamics between people. And so if it's bad enough between two people trying to heal yourselves and mirror each other and cleanse your wounds. But when you add more people to that, you have more chances of triggers and more chances of wounds and more chances of bringing stuff up that now you're having to purge within yourself. So it can also still be very intense on a person to have to go through. So while on one end they're trying to be free, on the other end, now you have a bunch of wounded, inner childs that you're dealing with more than just yours and somebody else's. So I'm going to give you a very specific example for me and how this works, because this is also in polarities. So just because one person feels this, they might need to have the freedom to choose it. But if you aren't choosing it or giving them the freedom to choose it, then you're limiting their choices or might even be limiting your own. And it's the resistance to doing something that creates the resistance in the dynamic. So you're resisting what that person needs to do for themselves, or resisting the idea that, you're limiting yourself. And I'm not so much saying that in this case with the polyamory, it could be anything. But if you place a limitation on anything, technically, it's not the fact that you got to follow through with the action, it's your resistance to the action that makes the difference here. So if you are in resistance to this and it's something that you truly don't want, and like they're choosing that path, I can promise you, based on my experience, your resistance to it's going to create and attract what you don't want, because you're focusing on what you don't want. And the minute you start doing that, you're going to have not just a twin flame showing up wanting to be in a polyamorous relationship, you're going to have another person show up that you might actually like again, and they're in a polyamorous relationship. And so that's kind of what happened to me. They kept showing up wanting to be in polyamorous relationships, and I was basically saying no. And then I had a partner come in that was from a past life that I know that we needed to clear. It was actually the very last life that we both had, and we needed to clear that life together. But on the flip side of that, he actually was in a polyamorous relationship. He was in a relationship where he was with someone that she was married, and he lived with her and her husband. And so with that, though, he was also looking to have somebody for himself, but still be in that dynamic. And so the interesting thing is he didn't tell me it up front. He told it to me like just a little bit in. And so when he told it to me with just a little bit in, and what I'd already been through made me pause, because I'd already known that I'd resisted it so many times, and here now it presented again. And so I basically still stood my ground on what my desires were, but I didn't put up the wall or the door or just shut all this out without being open to see what my mirrored reflection is and what I needed to learn from the situation. And so one of the things it was, we needed to clear past life stuff. Now, him and the polyamorous girlfriend had a lot of issues, and there was a lot of wounds there, and there was a lot of mirroring and a lot of triggering. And basically, they ended up splitting up and no longer being together. And he went to the other side of that then, and basically knew then he didn't want to be back in that situation where he was left out to dry in pain, because he had also been married prior to this, and his wife had a relationship with another man, and he had a relationship with this particular woman. And so it ended up his wounds were getting triggered, and he was the one always being abandoned. And so then that came back to him for him to clear and heal. And so with that, it mirrored back to him what I wanted as a single, solid, stable relationship that I could feel was my root system, and that I knew that that's what my soul longed for. And I stood in that ground. But then it finally kind of wore off on him in the reflection of what I wanted. He started seeing what I wanted, and he actually came back after all of that. And then he wanted to pick up where we left off. And what was interesting, we had reversed roles. Because we had reversed roles, I was now in my feminine, he was more in his masculine. And we still weren't to be together, but we brought a whole dynamic full circle to clear and cleanse of past life that needed to be, to bring the aspects into, like, say, myself, of showing me that actually what he showed me is I do want a solid, stable relationship, where after all the things I'd been through, and I was being stripped down to not have the expectation, and I had to learn to sort of let go of the expectation. And then basically from that, I had to be open enough then to not have as many expectations, but then, and learn that side of letting go of expectations, but then being open then to what I wanted as well. And the two came together, and he helped me bring it all full circle. And to this day, we're basically friends. In fact, he's still open and willing and ready to find his person and be in a monogamous relationship versus the polyamorous relationships that he had been in. So to kind of sum that up, as we redefine relationships, at the end of the day, know that these relationships are helping us heal ourselves, and that we're mirrors, and that this is an individual personal choice. And that if people are choosing to go that route, it is and can be part of their personal path that they are to go on to do what they need to do for their own soul, their own healing, and their own ability to navigate their journey and get their lesson, and allowing them to do it and you doing the same. So number one is you probably need to look at yourself first and say, okay, what is this teaching me? Why am I attracting someone that isn't and wants to be in a polyamorous relationship? Is it because you have so many expectations that you're shutting down and closing off divine love? Because technically that is what more of a polyamorous relationship is. It is a piece of divine love saying, I'm giving you the freedom to choose yourself, be yourself, and have what you need for yourself without expecting you to give me something, even when it comes to the intimacy. And that is a piece of why polyamorous relationships are unfolding, because we actually need a piece of that energy to take place in the collective energy, in the bandwidth of it, for us all to shift into that. That can be short-lived and that can be changed. And so just, go on your own path. Choose yourself. Choose what your needs are. Look and see what your resistance is. Learn why you're resistant. That in yourself. Not with them, but what in it about it are you feeling resistant to? Clear that, allow that, heal that. You still don't have to choose it, but there's a part of it you're resisting inside of yourself, okay? So we're moving beyond these dysfunctional relationships and we're redefining the relationships. And so in a spiritual realm, polyamory has its place. And I'm not condoning it and I'm not basically choosing it. But what I am saying is everyone has a piece of this path. And therefore, we all need to clear something. And I've been down the path to clear it from both sides, see its point of why it's here. And then from there, it's opening the bandwidth for the collective to potentially go through the same experience. So let me know where you are with that in your journey. And Casey, thank you for this question. And let me know if you have any additional questions in the comments below. And let me know if this has helped you. And again, if you have a question that you would like me to answer just through some showing up in real talk and just seeing what comes through, I would love to hear your question. Make sure to like, comment, share the shine. I'll see you in the next video. May you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.